everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and today we continue the playthrough of Dragon Eclipse from Awaken Realms with the finale. This video is going to close things off for the playthrough, so if you haven't checked out the prototype unboxing or my part 1 gameplay video, those will be in the top right hand corner. You'll want to check those out first to understand how we got to where we are now. Now, for those of you that have been following along, you'll remember at the end of part number 1, we had just revealed map 4, which we're digging into right now. We still need to set this up, and I'll also just summarize the narrative that led into this map to remind us as to what we're doing here. Now, it's also worth mentioning if you want to find more information around the campaign, I've got links to the campaign in the pinned comment and video description. I also want to mention we have thriving solo communities discussing games at all times on Discord and a Facebook group. So if you want to be in both places, as they serve different purposes and have a different structural layout, or you could just choose whichever one you prefer in terms of a platform. But we'd love to have you there to be a part of those conversations as crowdfunding projects evolve, or games go to retail release, or just games you're excited about showing off and talking about. We also have rules discussions. Everything is going on inside of these different groups, and we would love to have you there. So without further ado, let's dig into the gameplay and pick it up where we left it off. Here's a look at the map that we revealed at the tail end of part number 1. I'll reread the narrative so we understand exactly what's going on. It states, the first thing you see when you leave the city is a large arrow left on the ground, as you presume by the rangers. This time you won't have to track the creatures, fortunately. Following the rangers' markings, you arrive at their makeshift camp. It's not looking well. A wounded man, Harlan, lays on a stretcher, and bruised water creature curls up next to him. Another ranger approaches you. Her face is stern. The creatures are east of here, hidden on an old tree. But there's a problem. The area belongs to several predators. With them there, the creatures won't climb down. And as we are in danger without your experience, you can see the result of an elk thorn ambushing us. You nod and consider your situation. 1, you must get rid of the predators. Intimidating or defeating one of them should be enough to scare the others as well. 2, you must calm down and escort the Windraisers to safety. It probably won't be easy. You've already seen how they behave when they are scared. You must hurry and not daddle. You go toward the glade indicated by the rangers. The book also lets us know to keep our eyes open on the map itself. There might be tracks that are actually imprinted in the artwork itself. So beyond just looking at the icons that are on the map, you're going to want to look at the actual artwork because you might find things that will lead you to certain outcomes. So keep your eyes open. So as we take a closer look at the map, you're going to see tracks. These ones look like human footprints, and you've got ones that look like some type of creature. Another creature potentially moving through here. Of course, not sure 100% which way the creature might be going, but it does lead over here to 66. We also have prints over here leading into 53. There's prints really all over the place throughout here, which makes things really interesting in terms of where I want to go. Now, the book does tell us if we happen to have this token right here, which we do, and it's in front of you, then we're supposed to read specific text. If we had other tokens, we get other information. It states, elk thorns keep to the deepest groves where they hammer trees in their unquenchable rage. Now we're told to play Secret Card 18 in the event slot here when setting up map number 4, and also to set the timer to 2. The goal here is to try to save the Windraisers as they're in danger. The quicker we can do this, the better. Now, based on the information we got from this token in terms of the elk thorns, and this one's specific to that creature, there are other potential creatures we can find in here, of course, but saying that it's in a grove area would make me think it's down here in 75 potentially, or maybe the tracks leading into 66. So maybe we should focus on these areas first. I'm going to choose to go to 66. It tells me if there's any token in slot 1, we go to a different script. Otherwise, we continue to read on. It says, hoofprints disappear into a dense grove. For some time, you haven't heard any birds or seen animal tracks. You are on your way to a predator's lair. There is no doubt. We can either enter the grove or we can leave. I've decided to head into the grove. Let's see what happens. It states, the noise of a falling tree heralds the arrival of the predator. Its eyes burn with unquenchable fury. The muscles bulge under the layer of thick hide. You hope you didn't bite off more than you can chew. We're going to place the map aside. In this case, we'll leave it here. We're reminded not to discard the secret from the event slot or mess with the time marker. Leave those alone. We're going to set up for combat as we found this predator. In just a moment, I'll set up the entire combat area, but I want to talk quickly about which creature I'm going to use, because I have 2 of them. One of them has a bunch of damage, has 11 damage, as you can see by the 2 purple tokens and the red token. Purple is 5 damage, and red is for 1. So we got 11 damage there on the right creature, and that's the creature you saw in the prior video. This one I tamed in the very first scenario, which I did not film. So I have this creature at my disposal, and I'm going to use it. I'm halfway through the setup, which is very easy, but I wanted to stop for a second and show you guys some of the ripple effects that are occurring based on how I played things prior. So first off, we have the miniatures here. I haven't dealt with my creature stuff yet. We'll talk about that in the back half of the setup. We have here a token which comes from this arena card here for 6, and it states that you're going to place a layer on the exclamation marker in the middle, and it says when you end your turn in range 1 from the layer, the Elkhorn is going to gain Rage, and that's going to be the green leafed token. All right, so there's that. And then we've got ourselves the enemy deck. This is what it's comprised of. I'm going to shuffle it up. It's going to end up going here. I wanted to show you exactly what it's comprised of. We've got this marker in slot 3, and we'll look closely at this card when we get closer to the end of setup. Now, there's something that's going to change that I find pretty cool. Now, do you remember that win token that I had in front of me? Well, if we have it, we discard it at this point, and instead of using arena card 6, which is called Dark Grove, as we've set up, we're instead going to use arena card 7. And it states, smoke is the only thing you know that repels elk thorns. You manage to set a pile of damp leaves on fire just before the fighting starts. So I've gone ahead and switched out the arena card from 6 to 7, meaning that the black token that was here is gone. And the setup instructions tell us to place a smolder token, which is the white one here, in the exclamation mark space, which I've done. And it's going to be in the middle of the arena because there's actually a few of them around the battle arena. There's a couple bonus actions here. I'll zoom in on them in a second to show you what they are. But you'll also see down below, got my creature set up here, special abilities. We'll talk more about this in a second. And then the hand drawn out across the action slots. I also went ahead and discarded the win token as it instructed when we swap from 6 to 7 on the arena card. So we got the Smoky Grove. Here's the 2 bonus actions. You'll see that they have different costs, 0 and 4 for the elemental. I'm going to refer to this as energy as I go through the playthrough just so there's no confusion, but they're for elemental markers, which are the orange markers that you obtain as you go through the game. I'm going to call them energy. And here it says chase away for 0 if the Elkthorn is in range 1 from the Smolder token, which is currently in play right here. You may discard Smolder, and if you do, the Elkthorn retreats. And then as a bonus action, you can choose to go ahead and spend 4 energy in order to light the leaves. And if there is no Smolder token on the arena, you place it on the chosen exclamation mark space. So at that point, it can start to go to any of the exclamation mark spaces. There's 3 of them. Starting off with the player's turn, my creature gets to go first. I'll show you the special ability here. It is 2 energy to tromp. You get to place 1 Quake token in range 2. And then once you get 8 energy, you can choose to spend it for Tremors. Each opponent's going to gain 3 damage for each Quake in range 2 from them. So you can plant a bunch of those tokens down. You can really cause some Tremors that'll do some decent damage. As always, it's a good idea to take a look at your opponent, seeing as you know which thing is coming up next. Triangle is going to be the one that's going to be activated. You have a passive ability here for this enemy and a special ability that can trigger. We'll show you that if you haven't seen it already later on. We've got all these stats here: health, defense, attack, and movement. And here, based on the triangle, the next thing it's going to do is rush, which means it's going to try to charge towards us using its movement. It's going to attack us, and if the opponent didn't get any damage, it's going to get mad about it. And when it gets mad, it's going to gain a token. And if it says here, the Elkthorn has +3 attack and -3 defense for each rage token it has. The max is 1 though, can't go any higher than that. And then the Elkthorn discards the rage after attack. So basically it bolsters its attack to do a really big attack, but at the same time when it has the token, it's weakened on its defense. So that's the time when you want to hit it. I'm going to start things off by using slot 4 here, which is going to give me 3 energy plus 1 on the card. It says if the card was in the 3rd slot, I'd actually gain 2 additional instead of 1. So I only get 1 this time, so it's going to be 4 total going onto my creature. And as with any creature, we also have a reference card in terms of other actions you can perform here. This is specific to the earth element, so we have a bonus action: 1 energy to move, 1 energy to discard a card and draw a card, or 3 energy to move an opponent by 1 space. Again, you can only do each of these once on your turn. I'm going to use my special ability here to tromp, which allows me to spend 2 energy, and I've placed this, so long as it's within range 2, it's A-okay. This one's going to go right here. Now, it's kind of a fun game trying to figure out exactly where to place these in order to build up to the eventual Tremors that can really give you some nice damage, but that's part of the strategy with this. We'll have to see how this Elkthorn acts over time to get a better appreciation for how these tokens can be used. Now, I know on its activation, the Elkthorn is going to try to rush for 2 movement and attack me. So what I can try to do here is use this smoldering Smoky Grove area here in order to push back and retreat this Elkthorn for a moment. So I'm going to go ahead for no energy whatsoever and chase away. If the Elkthorn is in range 1 from a smolder token, which it is, you may discard the smolder, and if you do, the Elkthorn retreats, so retreating back 2. So we're now ready to go ahead and resolve the enemy's turn. We already know what it's doing. It's going to be rushing. It'll move forward 2. It heads right back towards me. It now tries to attack. It's not adjacent to me and doesn't have range for its attack. So because of that, it cannot do the attack. And then it states on the card, if the opponent didn't gain any damage, then it gains rage. The Elkthorn is now very angry, and with that comes +3 to its attack, so it's now going to be a 7 when it attacks, but its defenses have dropped down to 0. Back to my creature's turn. I'm going to use Stone Roll, getting 3 energy on my creature, and then it states to move +2. I'm really not going to use that much movement as I'm just getting right up close to it so I can do an attack. We're going to move right up here like this. We're going to do that attack. And that's only going to hit it for 2 damage, as that's all I've got down here. And it does get through its defenses because, remember again, while it's enraged, it doesn't have any defense, which is nice. So 2 hits on it. Here's the cool thing. This thing has a passive ability, so it's going to go to the discard pile right now. It states you're going to get +2 defense for each Quake token in range 1. So what are we going to do? I'm going to spend 2 right now in order to use my special ability for Tromp. We're going to place another Quake token close by. And just like that, with 2 of these Quake tokens close by, this Stone Roll, when it goes into my discard now, is going to give me a passive 4 defense, which is going to be great for blocking what the enemy is planning to do next. That's going to do it for now. Let's head over to the enemy's turn. Now this symbol right here tells us it's going to do a rush and deal 3 damage in range 2, so it doesn't need to go anywhere. It's right beside me. It's going to be dealing me 3 damage, but because of my defense, I wash it all away. Now the way the passive works is it states here the Elkthorn discards a rage token after it attacks. Now the one we just resolved is dealing damage in range 2, whereas the one below it says rush attack, specifically the keyword attack. Special ability also mentions attack. So the dealing of damage is not an attack per se in this case. As it mentioned, it needs to attack even with the capital A, very much like the second line here and the special ability. So this rage token is still on the enemy. Here's an up-close look at what I'm referring to, so you can see Elkthorn discards Rage token after it attacks. Down here, the one we just resolved does not specify attack. It just deals damage in range 2, whereas this one here states attack, and the special ability states attack. So in those situations, the Rage would come off. So in this case, the Rage is still on, which means the defense is still down, which is great. We also haven't really looked at the taming of this thing. So it says there's 3 steps. As always, we're going to move from top to bottom. The first thing is to weaken the Elkthorn to at least 8. So if we can get that done, great. Then snap it out of rage so we can deal a whole bunch of damage in 1 turn with rage. Then that is certainly going to help us. And then show your power. Deal 4+ damage in 1 turn to the Elkthorn without rage. So we're back to my turn, and we know this thing is going to want to wind up and hit us really good, seeing as it's in rage, so we're going to probably want to make sure we've got some defense. So let's go with the Stone Skin. This will be great. It'll give us 2 plus the 1 on it, so that's a total of 3, and it gives us a passive 5 defense. So we got the Stone Skin in place, a nice passive +3 defense, which we definitely need because we don't even have any off the base default value, and we've got some elemental energy building up here. The enemy is now going to activate. It's going to be the triangle, so it's going to rush, but it's right beside me, so it's good to go. It's going to attack me, so it's going to be attacking it with a total of 7 against my 5, which means 2 damage is going through. That's the first 2 damage on Golemo, which we've received, so that's on the creature's card. We also removed the Enrage or Rage token from the Elkthorn. It's worth mentioning here it was an attack, so that token had to go at this point. It states if the opponent didn't gain any wounds, then you go ahead and gain Rage, but it did, so that's not happening. What is going to happen is we've hit this marker with our last card placed, and that's going to trigger the special ability. So an attack is coming our way. This time it'll only be for 4, and thank goodness we put the Stone Skin on because it's going to help us again, washing away all of that damage. But this thing gets mad once again. That's going to do it for the enemy's turn. Let's head back to our player turn. I'm going to choose to do double strike, seeing as the defenses are down. This is going to gain us 2 energy. The very first attack is going to do a simple 2 damage straight through, but I'm going to go ahead and add 1 to it. It says right here, during combat, when you attack, add 1 to your combat total there. So this is going to be red berries discarded in order to get 3 damage on the Elkthorn. So we're slowly working our way up to that very first criteria to tame this thing. We need to have at least 8 wounds on this thing. We currently have 5. Next thing we can do if we want is we can discard 2 energy to attack again. I'm going to do it. Just like that, it now has 7 damage, just 1 away from taking off the very first thing we need to do to tame this thing. Now I'm keeping a close eye on what I can potentially dole out for damage in terms of other item cards I have. I have another item card up my slot that says during combat you can add +2 to an attack. I'm waiting to use that with my regular 2 attack I have here later on, as it's one of the criteria I need to get 4+ on an attack with rage and without rage. So that will be a perfect time to use it rather than doing it now. Could use the +2 right now to get to that first tame requirement sooner, but then I'm kind of hurting myself later on from getting a 4 damage attack. Remember, again, I still have the ability to do this crazy tremor, but it does take a while to accumulate, hence the reason why I'm building this up. So I am thinking probably 3 to 4 turns down the row. The enemy is now going to go ahead and activate. It's going to be doing a rush, which it won't do because it's right beside me. We've been staying toe-to-toe with each other, just engaging constantly. And then it's going to deal 3 to me. I do have no defense this time, so all 3 are going through. So I now have a total of 5 damage on me. I have 24 health, so we're sitting at 19. And the rage token stays on as this individual did not use the attack keyword as it specifies in the passive ability. I'm going to go ahead and choose to use strike here. So we're going to be gaining 2 energy, and then we're going to do an attack and then gain another energy after that. So here is the 2. The attack with 0 defense, thanks to it being enraged, is going to be 2 damage, which is enough to satisfy the very first criteria in taming, because we're now at least 8 wounds on this enemy, which is awesome. So I'll go ahead and mark the card up in the top left, a little bit off screen there. The next thing we need to try and do is deal 4 damage in 1 turn to the Elkthorn with rage. So that's going to be the next thing to try and accomplish. We also gain that extra energy. We're going to place that on the mat, and we've definitely got a nice storehouse of energy here to pull off this Tremors. We've also got a card in here that's really handy. In the future, we can place another Quake in range 2, and we can actually gain energy off the Quakes around us in range 2, so that's something to keep aware of. Now I have the choice here to try to tame this thing as I go through this, or I could try to defeat it. What I don't want to have happen as I try to tame it is to put so many of these things around the ground that when I do actually go ahead and trigger the tremor, that it actually just takes this thing down, because the next 2 things I need to do is deal 4+ damage in 2 different hits. And if I have too much damage on one of those attacks, I could end up knocking this thing out for good. I currently have 9 on it. It only has 20 health. Now, speaking of health, I just noticed that the purple marker that was sitting on my creature was just off camera here. Somehow I bumped it out of the way, but we do have 5 on us, which is not good. We're down to 19 right now. Let's continue on. We're now going to go ahead and activate the enemy here. We have a triangle, so it's going to rush. It will not because it's right beside me. It's going to attack. It's going to be a nasty one because it's enraged, so it's going to be 7. Yikes. And I have absolutely no defense, so that's going straight through for the first time. I already had 5 damage on my creature. 7 more makes it 12, which is half the health of my creature that quickly. So if you don't block and defend those major enraged attacks, things are going to escalate quite fast, but I am trying to push for a tame, so I'm kind of leaving myself open at certain times. We have to be careful of that. I don't have too many defensive cards, and the real big one is already in the discard pile. So here's hoping I can weather the storm. Also, because it just did an actual attack here, it's going to go ahead and lose its enraged token, so that token is gone. And of course, as we've seen before, if the opponent didn't gain any wounds, it gains rage. It's not going to get that because it did 7 wounds to me. The enemy deck was also depleted, so we took the enemy discard over here, we shuffled it up, and created a new enemy deck. You do not touch the ones which are currently inside the row as they're building up towards the special ability to be triggered by the enemy. And also, don't forget to put a fatigue card, because you did this, on top of your discard pile. Now, to continue with our progress of trying to tame this thing, we need to try to snap it out of its rage next. So we need to deal 4+ wounds in 1 turn to the Elkthorn with rage. It currently doesn't have rage. I think it's probably a good idea to boost up our defenses here. So let's use Earth Shield. We get to place 1 Quake in range 1. So I'm going to go ahead and place this one right here. And then we're going to go ahead as a passive here. We get +2 for each Quake in range 1. So if we stay right here, we are going to have 6 defense. And this is going to sit right here on top of the deck, which is great. Drawing up the last card from our player deck, we have Defensive Stance. I'm going to end my turn right there, and we're going to go ahead and activate the enemy here, which is going to be doing Rush. It'll stay still. It's going to attack me, and this time it's going to be attacking me for 4, and it is not going to get through as my defense is 6, so that is not doing anything to me. It says the opponent didn't gain any wounds, which it didn't. This thing is going to gain Rage. That's going to do it for this card. We're going to go ahead and flip it over. It'll end up in the special ability slot. So we trigger that now. It's going to be an attack while it's in rage, which is 7 damage. Thank goodness I have 6 shields, only 1 getting through. Now that attack then discards the rage token, but then right after it, it says to gain rage. So it goes right back on again. We now move to the next player phase. I need to make a correction here. In the prior player phase, I had Earth Shield in this position, and I did everything on the card, but I didn't take the energy. So I get 1 energy here. We now are all caught up. Now, in order to keep my defenses up as we go along, I'm going to take defensive stance. Only gives me 1, which I'm going to remember to take this turn. We're going to place it right here. We gain another 1 as well, and we get a passive +2 on defense. We're now ready to go ahead and try and accomplish the second one here, which I can pull off by using a couple maneuvers. So first off, based on me having all of these icons around me, this is going to make the usage of Tremor really powerful. And if the defenses are down for this creature, which it is because it's currently enraged, which is what we want to see, but I don't want to put 9 damage on it, which is far past the amount of damage I want to put on this thing, because that would put it up way too close to 20 for anything to ever be tamed in the future. It would be closer to a defeat. I'm going to use some manipulation here. I'm going to use my special ability over here, bonus action I should say, to move an opponent by 1 space for 3 energy. By moving the creature 1 space north, it is now not going to be affected by this token. If I go ahead and use Tremors, it'll only be affected by these 2, which is what I want. So now we're going to go ahead and spend 8 energy to do Tremors for each quake within 2 range from the creature being inflicted. It's going to take 3 wounds, so 6 going against the enemy, and that's also going to have us complete the second step, which is to deal 4+ in 1 turn to the Elkthorn with Rage. The cost and energy has been paid. We have 1 energy left. The damage total on the Elkthorn now is 15. We would take it out and defeat it at 20. I'm hoping not to do that as I'm very close to taming it. We need to now focus on showing our power. We need to deal 4+ wounds in 1 turn for the Elkthorn without Rage. We're now activating the enemy, and based on this symbol, it tells us to rush. So I've gone ahead and moved the creature to here. I could choose this spot or this spot. I've chosen this one right here. And this is going to deal 3 wounds to me in range 2. I do have a passive 2 defense, so 1 damage getting through. And I'm up to a total of 14 damage on my creature. That's going to resolve this card. It's back to my turn. Well, we know full well this thing is still enraged and it plans on hitting me, so we might as well go after the Stone Skin here, giving me 1 there for the boost in energy and then 1 off the card as well, so 2 more here. Then we're going to gain a passive 5 defense. When this goes in the discard pile, we'll go ahead and replenish. The enemy is going to rush me, but it's already here. It's going to go ahead and attack me. It's going to be a 7 attack against my 5, so 2 damage gets through. That is going to do it, so that's a total now of 16 damage on my poor creature. And then it states for this one, if the opponent didn't gain any, it would gain Rage again. But because it attacked with Rage, this thing is gone. So now it has nothing on it, and we go ahead and we move this one to the next slot. Now, one thing I need to clarify is earlier in the video, I talked about not wanting to walk into a situation where I accidentally put too much health on the creature I'm trying to tame, either meeting its health at 20 or exceeding it, and then of course I just end up defeating it instead of taming it. However, there is a timing thing there. If you are able to succeed at the final condition of the taming card, while you're doing it, if you actually equal or exceed the damage level of the creature, you still tame it. So if I give it a 10 damage attack right now, which far exceeds its 20 damage total here, as 10 more damage would put it up to 25. As long as I'm succeeding in that final condition while doing it, I've tamed the creature. So we've got this thing in the bag. I'm going to go ahead and use Soil Feed. This is a really cool card. I'm going to get 2 energy off the hop, and then I get to place a Quake in range 2. I'll go ahead and place it right here. It doesn't matter the placement in this situation, as I've got enough as is right now. But I get to gain 1 energy for each Quake in range 2, so I'm not only getting 2, I'm getting another 4. So with that energy, we're now going to go ahead and activate Tremors, which will cost us 8. So we'll go ahead and remove 8 from our pile here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is going to cost us in order to trigger this. And as you can see, anything within range 2 of the target we're attacking is going to get 3 wounds for each one. Remember, because this creature is not currently with the Rage token, it has this defense of 3. So basically it blocks 1 of the tokens because they're each worth 3 in terms of wounds. But 3 other tokens hit within range 2. So that's 9 damage going through, bumping it up to 24. But that doesn't matter, even though we met or exceeded, because we met the final condition of taming. So we successfully tamed the creature. We get this card here, which will end up going into our book. And we have this card here to flip over at the very end. Let's find out what happens. It says, if you tame the enemy, go to script 89. And we did. The moment the wrathful predator stops fighting, you smile. You know you've won. The elkthorn runs off to trample young trees and smash limestone. It looks at you curiously as you call off your creature and stroke its head to show it your gratitude for its help. You approach the elkthorn very slowly and stop each time it snorts. When you are close enough to touch it, you wait for it to make the next move. It doesn't attack, a good sign. Instead, it recoils a little, but then it gets closer and nudges you with its antlers. A good start, you would say. If you spend more time together, you think you can make a connection. You hope this victory will also scare away other predators, at least temporarily. At this point, we open up the creature study, the binder, where we store all of our information for the creatures, and this one being tamed, we place 44A card into the slot and 45B. You can pause the screen to read that one in the bottom right if you wish. Now, this elkthorn creature is not available as part of the prototype, so we do not get a set of action cards or are able to use it inside of this prototype play, but of course, in the final version, that will definitely be possible. Now it tells us to place an A token in the 1 slot on map number 4. The book tells us the danger is over, and it tells us to clear the area, which means the battlefield, and that has already been done. Now, I remember from searching the 66, the first time we went into it, it asked us if we had an A token in slot 1, and we didn't. We now have it, so we're going to head to that 66 location again, knowing that we have this in the slot. It tells us we've reached the Predator's lair, which is empty. It should be safe to rake it. We're going to go through this and see if we can search the lair. It says to gain 2 items, or we can heal 2. I'm certainly going to heal 2, as, well, both of my creatures are in pretty bad shape. I'm going to choose to heal this creature here. It did have 11. It's now down to just 9 wounds. I'm going to interact with this node right here, 63. The tree seems very interesting. Let's find out more about it. Now, there's a number of different paths that could go here dependent on where tokens are in certain slots, but for me, nothing is going to take me into a different script. It tells me to read on. So the wind razors hide high above your head inside the thick of the canopy. Climbing the tree could prove dangerous. The bark could crumble, and the scared wind razors may throw you down with a gust of wind. We can choose to climb the tree anyway. We can lure the wind razors down. We would actually need to have a certain secret card, which I currently do not have, so we can't even do that option. It requires it, or we can just leave. So I'm going to try to climb the tree. Let's see what happens. You attempt to climb the tree. If you get to the top, the wind razors will certainly recognize you and follow you back to the ground. But if you have token B in slot 1, it sounds like bad things would happen. Now, I don't currently have that, so I don't have to worry about it. Instead, I have to just perform a test. Here's a look at the table for the test. It says if you have 3 moon icons, the test ends immediately, and then you resolve the appropriate result. And we have a table here. We're looking for 9 as the best. 8 is decent. 7, well, it just ends. And then this one here says the script ends as well. Looks like things just go south on you. So let's see if we can get up the top. First card off the top. And just to let you know, item-wise, I have nothing that can manipulate checks right now, which is unfortunate. Lots for combat, but nothing for checks. First one here is a moon, and it's a 2. That's not a good start. We've already got one of those 3 moons. Not good. That's good. A 3. That's a nice jump up to 5. After that, we got a 2. Now we're up to 7. So do we want to push on further? Yes, because we need to get into that 8 to 9 range if we can pull it off. Oh my gosh, that is perfect. We're going to stop right there. Script 77 says the wind razors are finally on the ground, looking around confused. To your surprise, you feel an aura of longing around them as they look in the direction of opposite of Kerberg. Strange, but they obediently follow you as you think of your next move. You must go to the Rangers, following their trail west, to escort the creatures to the city. We now place token A in slot 2, and it states we have saved them. It's time to return to the Rangers by following their footprints. If the predator is still out there, you may want to hunt it down so that it doesn't harm anyone in the future. Otherwise, spending any more time in the forest will be a waste, as there is nothing left to discover here. This script ends. Now, knowing that we're looking for Rangers footprints heading west, well, taking a look at the map here, we've got some footprints that look like Rangers footprints, and they're on the west side of the map, so I'm thinking 13 is the right thing. Looking at it in the journal, it states, human tracks lead west toward the Rangers' makeshift encampment. You cannot return until you save the wind razors, and we have done that. So because of that, we get to choose to return to the Rangers as long as we have token A in slot 2, which we do, or we can leave. And so we're going to be going ahead to script 80. The flock of wind razors huddles nearby while you speak with the Rangers. We will take them to the city, one of them says, and we prepared a hearty meal for you and your creatures in the meantime. While you rest, the Ranger continues. We still have a problem. We have found the wind raisers, but the city's 3 water creatures are still missing. What is more, we've seen the enormous shadow and wild creatures following it. We fear that our water friends might have gone after the shadow as well. We know that you haven't slept in 2 days, but can you try to find them as well? Of course, you say, knowing well that's your job. You look at the sky. Now it tells us right now to heal 6, which we could absolutely use. I'm going to be putting that on my water creature. Then we gain secret card 30. The card tells us you rescued the wind raisers from forest predators and escorted them to safety. The sky in the east suddenly splits in two. A pitch black vertical line rends the air, growing wider and wider. The moons are perfectly aligned, obscuring the sun and casting a deep shadow over the world. You are standing with your head raised, awestruck. What does that mean? Are the legends about the eclipse true? You don't have time to ponder. The ground trembles with an enormous silhouette appears on the horizon, beating its dark wings. It is a shadow you've seen before. This time there are no doubts. It's a dragon, a mythical beast, the most powerful entity in the world. The dragon is headed toward the black line splitting the sky. You notice something flying behind it. A flock of airborne creatures, perhaps? Your knees tremble when you think about the possible consequences of the events unfolding before your very eyes. But there's no time to hesitate. You will go there. The other city's creatures can be there. And even if they aren't, you must see what is going on and then decide if Karberg needs to be evacuated. Close the map and go to script 100. You run between the dark trees toward the dark line in the sky that is now wide enough to resemble a gaping hole, seeping liquid darkness into the world. You begin hearing unsettling noises, mighty roars, creatures' cries, and shouts in some guttural language you heard before. There is also the clamor of metal striking against stone and other equally unsettling sounds. When you finally arrive, the sounds of battle are long gone. You see the dragon, a creature even larger than you've imagined, blocking the bottom of the gap in reality with its body. From where you are standing, the gap resembles a portal into another place, a dark one. The sky inside it is black. There is no moon nor sun, only a few dim, glimmering stars. You hear howling from the other side and angry shouts. The area around the portal is scattered with broken weapons and bodies of unconscious creatures. You recognize some of them. Golemos from the ruins and the water helpers from Karberg. They probably helped the dragon defend the area from whatever emerged through the portal. The weapons, the pieces of armor, they all scratch and itch in your mind, a memory connected to the ruins you explored yesterday, but you can't tell exactly what it was. You finally focus on the dragon, wounded and bleeding. It makes a wail that resounds in your soul. It evokes strange feelings and visions. You suddenly see an underground area and something shining in the darkness. You see a desert and a high construction looming on the horizon. There are also 2 floating islands connected by a bridge. The visions disappear when the dragon snarls and you hear a rustle behind you. Startled, you turn to notice a tall figure, a monster. They are neither a creature nor an animal. They have roughly human silhouette, dark wings, a gaunt face with black eyes, and something glistening at their fingertips. You hear a snarl and look down to see another beast, a creature crouching at the monster's ankles. Its shifting, shadowy, even smoke-like form eludes your sight. Only malicious red eyes and sharp teeth are something to focus on. The winged figure speaks, their voice reminding you of the large grinding stones inside windmills. They point at you and their creature becomes more agitated. You don't understand anything, but you feel threatened, and so does your companion who jumps forward to defend you. You glance at the dragon, it looks at you sadly, powerless. It uses all its strength to keep the portal closed. And that, my friends, will wrap up my GameFound preview for Dragon Eclipse from Awaken Realms. I really enjoyed my time with the prototype. Looking forward to how it develops over time. The campaign is currently ongoing as this video releases. I really hope the series of videos I put together helps you get a great in-depth look at the gameplay from start to finish, so you really can help to make that informed decision on this one, knowing full well, as with Awaken Realms, there will be development tweaks along the way. A lot of the things that are found throughout videos like these will be tweaked in the final version to be made even better. So very, very excited for what's to come. This prototype was very good looking and enjoyable to go through, and I can't wait for the final version in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.